Bottom line, we're living in an area, in a region of the country that is expected. We've grown tremendously over the last 30-year period of time. When you look at where all the projections are in the United States, latest Brookings, about a year old Brookings Institution identified where the 6 states in the United States where the most growth was going to wind up taking place over the next 25, 30-year period of time. And guess what one of the 6 states is? It's Georgia. And guess where a good portion of that growth is going to come to the greater Atlanta region. And so it's not a matter about whether, and when we look at our own projections and look at what's going to take place over the next 30-year period of time, we're looking at least within this region about another 3 million people. And so it's not a matter of whether or not the growth is going to come here. It's coming. It's a matter of how we wind up within this region addressing that, okay? Now, having said that, I'm just going to make a few little comments, okay? Great cities and great regions throughout the world have great transportation networks and systems. Second-class ones do not. So I'm educating, I'm educating, and I'm informing, I'm not advocating, okay? The reality for us is that, and it certainly is not any data we came up with. I think the work that was done in IT3 that McKinsey and Associates did for our state under Governor Perdue's administration was unerringly clear in terms of the lack of investment and the underinvestment that's taken place in our state over the last 20-year period of time. We're running 49 out of 50 in terms of what the per capita investment has been in transportation infrastructure of all types within our state. And we're not talking about just comparing us with the New Yorks or the whatever. We're talking about comparing ourselves, and my family's from Alabama, but we're talking about comparing ourselves with Alabama and what's happening in Tennessee and what's happening in Charlotte and all of that. So we have significantly invested. During the period of the greatest boom for ourselves, we coasted. We coasted. And we're not bad folks, but we coasted. We had a lot, we spent a lot, but we didn't really put it into this infrastructure investment that's really about mobility, because how we effectively, efficiently, and smartly wind up moving people and commerce is absolutely tantamount to economic competitiveness, sustainability, and overall quality of life. Formula don't change. That's the way it is, okay? Now, having said that, very quickly on the public transit side of the house, this was a region of the country 35 years ago that was a leader. We got stuck. Today, we're 1/2 of what the original build-out was. The 2 sister cities for us, regions of the country, when we were heralded as the beginning of the renaissance of modern rail transit in the United States, there were 3 systems. The MARTA system here in Atlanta, the BART system in San Francisco, and the Washington Metro system. Those were the 3. I've had the pleasure of working at MARTA and working with BART as well. When you look at it, we're 1/2 of the build out. Washington, D.C., they went through the 103, the 106, they're on the way, 106 miles, they're on the way to Dulles Airport now. Same situation has happened down in the Bay Area. When you look at who had a better economic case, all of that kind of stuff, we dwarfed them. The difference was that they had the tenacity, the leadership, and the chutzpah to keep moving. And we got stuck. And so now I'm going to just end up with these little notes. I didn't even know Sally was going to ask that question. I'm so glad you did. Okay. So this is what faces us, okay? Is it perfect? Oh my gosh, perfection? They never are. I've been through 5 of these referendums, okay, and I'm saying, but what I can tell you is this, and this is fact. Let me just talk about the transit side. All of the transit projects that are in the referendum are good projects. Now, I've been some places where you had referendum and you looked up and you never even knew where the project came from. Every single one of these projects has come off of the regional plans. Concept 3, everybody says they want to rename it Concept 3, but was really the result of a lot of hard work that took place across this region, and are actually the projects that have been adopted having nothing to do with the TIA in terms of our federal transportation vision and program for moving forward. So we didn't just go pick projects out of hats, okay? Now, in terms of MARTA, and I can give you a whole a slew in terms of MARTA and the manner.
In a minute.
In a minute, okay. I'll finish up and say this. So they're all good projects. Everybody could have wanted a little bit more of this, a little bit more of that, and whatever. And the reality is that it was always intended to be a jump start, because this is only up to $8 billion. And when you look at just the transit plan that we have on the table for our region for the next 30 years, it was $50 billion in 2008 dollars. And so this $3.5 billion or $4 billion, if we're very fortunate, Commissioner May and others, to be able to turn that 15% that's a local option into a lot of transit projects, I hope, it's never going to build the whole thing out. No, it's the jump start, but it's a very important jump start. So these things I can tell you from experience. Whatever we do, it will never be less expensive to build than today. If we don't get started now, we will simply continue to lag behind. We better not, as Todd was saying over here, at the federal level, the Highway Trust Fund is broke. We're working on a continuing resolution now, the 9th one, because there has not been a transportation bill. That's the solid bill since September 30th of 2009. And I can assure you that the federal government is not the one that's going to wind up bailing out local areas that don't have the guts and the will and the leadership and tenacity to invest in themselves.